It's not them you keep thinking about. Sit with that for a second, because if it were really about them, their face, their laugh, the specific way they said your name, it would have faded by now. Faces fade. Voices go quiet. The specific details of a person soften with distance, the way a photograph left in sunlight slowly loses its color. But this hasn't faded, and the strange part, the part nobody talks about, is that you know, somewhere underneath it all, that they weren't even perfect. You remember the arguments, the disappointment, the version of yourself you sometimes didn't like when you were with them. You know going back wouldn't fix it, and yet the thought comes back. At the worst times. Triggered by nothing. A song from 3 years ago. Someone who walks the same way. A random Tuesday at 2 p.m. when you're doing something completely unrelated. There is a reason for that. A specific one. And it has almost nothing to do with them. That here's what it actually looks like from the inside. That you've moved on, or you've tried to. You've had the conversations with your friends where you talked it through until there was nothing left to say. You've probably had at least one night where you felt genuinely free of it, like the weight had finally lifted, and then something happens. Something small and stupid. A notification from a mutual friend. A memory that surfaces for no reason. You drive past the restaurant where you had your third date, and suddenly it's 6 months ago, and your chest does the thing it does. And what makes it worse is the guilt. The embarrassment of still being here, still caring, when by all reasonable calculations you should be past it. You've dated since. You've laughed since. You've had whole weeks where they didn't cross your mind, but then they do. And it feels like starting over. So you try harder. You stay busier. You tell yourself the story of everything that was wrong. You rehearse the reasons it didn't work like flashcards you keep having to flip through just to stay convinced. And still, there they are again at 11 p.m. Here's what nobody has told you yet. The reason it keeps coming back isn't because you love them too much. It's not a weakness. It's not that you're broken or that something is wrong with you or that you're secretly hoping they'll come back. It's something else entirely. Something most people never look at directly. And once you see it, this changes. Most people believe that getting over someone is a problem of attachment. That if you just detach enough, stay busy enough, meet enough new people, build enough distance, the thoughts will eventually stop. That time is the mechanism. That enough of it will wear the groove smooth. Here's what that actually means when you try to live it. You end up in a strange loop. You push the thoughts away, they come back stronger. You try not to care, the caring feels more intense. You try to replace the feeling with something else, and the replacement feels hollow in a way you can't quite explain to yourself. That loop isn't happening because you're doing it wrong. That it's happening because detachment was never the real solution to begin with. Because here's the thing about thoughts that won't stop. They are not random. They are not your brain malfunctioning. They are signals. And signals don't go away by being ignored. They repeat, louder and louder, until whatever they're pointing at gets looked at. The question is, what is this thought actually pointing at? Not at them. Not in the relationship. Not even at what you had. At something much closer than that. Something inside you that existed before they arrived. And that is still unresolved now that they're gone. By the time this is done, you will understand why the thought keeps coming back. Not as a concept, as a recognition. The kind where you think, oh, that's what this has been about. And you won't be able to unsee it. There's a story about a woman named Clara. Clara was 31 when her relationship of 4 years ended. Not dramatically, no betrayal, no blow-up fight that became the last one. It just slowly became clear to both of them that they had grown into different people who wanted different things. They ended it gently and with respect, which almost made it harder because there was no anger to hide behind. Clara did everything right after that. She gave herself time. She leaned on her friends. She threw herself into work and travel and all the things she'd put off while being part of a couple. By most external measures, she was fine, thriving, even, but 18 months later, she was still thinking about him. Not in a desperate way, not with any intention of going back. Just this persistent low hum of him, present at the edges of her days. When she was alone. When things got hard. When she was about to do something new and scary and found herself wishing she could tell him about it first. She finally talked to an older friend about it. Someone who had been through enough loss to stop pretending grief had a schedule. And her friend asked her one question. What did you feel like when you were with him that you don't feel like now? Clara thought about it for a long time. And what came out surprised her. She said, chosen. Not loved, necessarily. Not even happy, not always, but chosen. Like out of everyone he could have been with, he was with her. And that feeling of being chosen had become, without her realizing it, the primary evidence she used to tell herself that she was worth choosing. When he left, gently, respectfully, mutually, that evidence left too. And 18 months later, she was still reaching back for it. Not reaching for him. Reaching for the proof. That is the hidden reason. Not roughly. This is the exact mechanism. When a relationship ends, we don't just lose the person. We lose the version of ourselves that was reflected back to us through that person's choosing. We lose the evidence. And the mind, which is an evidence-seeking machine, goes looking for it. Over and over again. Back to the source. Back to the last place it felt confirmed. The thought isn't about them. The thought is about you. Specifically about a version of you that felt like enough. I felt seen. Felt worth staying for. And here's the part that makes it complicated. The feeling you're reaching for, being chosen, being known, being enough, that feeling was real. You didn't imagine it. It wasn't a lie. The relationship is over, but the feeling was genuine. And somewhere in you it got tangled up with the person who gave it to you, as if they were the only possible source. That is the tangle worth looking at. Because here's what I got wrong about this for a long time. I used to think the way out was to stop wanting that feeling. To need it less. To become someone who didn't require the confirmation of being chosen in order to feel whole. But that's not it. That's just a different kind of loss. The way out isn't needing less. It's locating the source differently. The feeling you're reaching for when your mind goes back to them. Being chosen, being known, being enough. That feeling doesn't live in them. It never did. They were able to reflect it back to you because it was already in you to feel. You couldn't have felt it if it wasn't already somewhere inside you, waiting. What they gave you wasn't the thing itself. They gave you a mirror, and the work, the real work, the kind that makes the thoughts finally start to quiet, isn't finding someone new to hold the mirror. It's learning to locate that feeling without not because independence is the goal. Not because you should stop wanting to be loved and known by another person. But because when you carry the source of that feeling inside you, instead of outsourcing it entirely to who you're with, something shifts. You stop going back to the memory looking for evidence. Because you're not on trial anymore. Most people figure this out eventually. Usually after the second or third relationship that ends the same way. With the same hollow return of the same thoughts, the same reaching back, the same loop. They start to notice the pattern. They start to see that it was never really about any specific person. You don't have to wait for the pattern to repeat. You can look at it now. Ask yourself, not hypothetically, but honestly, what did you feel when you were with them that you don't feel now? Not what you lose. What did you feel? Name it. As specifically as you can. That named feeling is what the thought has been pointing at every single time it came back. That's what you've been reaching for. And now that you know what it is, you can stop going back to the past to find it. And start asking a different question instead. Where else can this be found? How do I build this from inside instead of waiting for it to be given? That question is the beginning of something that actually ends the loop. The thought will probably come back again. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow when you're not expecting it. But now when it does, you'll know what to do with it. Not push it away. Not spiral into it. Just ask it the question it's actually been asking you all along. What do you still need to give yourself? Because that's all it's ever been. A reminder, a signal from a part of you that learned to feel certain things inside a relationship and hasn't yet figured out how to feel them outside of one. That's not a wound. That's an invitation. The moment you stop treating the thought as a problem to solve and start treating it as a question to answer, something in you will begin to settle. Slowly, not all at once, but in the right direction. That here's the thing to carry with you out of this. You were never thinking about your ex, you were thinking about yourself. A version of yourself you want to get back to. You just didn't know you could get there without them. Now you do. And the next question, the one that follows naturally from this, is how do you actually build that feeling from the inside? What does it look like, practically, day to day, to stop outsourcing your own sense of worth to the people who stay or leave? That's a different conversation. And it's one worth having.